Hello, welcome. Glad that you're here with us today as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. Today we're going to jump back to the book of Proverbs and we're going to wrap it up. We're going to look at chapters 30 and 31, the last two chapters. Chapter 30 opens with prayers and advice from Agur, not exactly sure how we pronounce that name. Now, we don't know who he is, but we're clearly told that what he's writing is by the revelation of God. First 10 verses of chapter 31 effectively relate to the activity of the church. We would call that God's kingdom of grace. The balance of the chapter then talks about God's kingdom of good order, or how things are designed by God to work in the family and in civil government, those agents of God's hand to preserve and to protect us in the world. Agur acknowledges that we cannot find wisdom, faith, on our own. Seeming to key off the questions that God asked Job, Agur demonstrates how hopeless our situation is, though there is one, Jesus, who can answer affirmatively to all of those questions that are posed. In verses 7 to 10, he requests that he be kept from sinning in what he says, and that he be neither impoverished nor made rich, because in both extremes, one can be caused to wander away from God. How good it is for us to be satisfied with our daily bread. The balance of chapter 10 is a listing of, the balance of chapter 30 is a listing of chapter 30 is a listing of 7 blocks of sayings that discuss how we relate to our family, as that is the first and foremost earthly construct, and then how we relate to our government, also a blessing of God to order our life here on earth. Read these, enjoy these, take them to heart. Chapter 31 then begins with words from Lemuel's mother. Now, once again, we don't know who King Lemuel was. Um, these words warn against the misuse of sexuality. They set standards for the use of alcohol, specifically that it be used to bring comfort, but not be abused in any way that causes harm. The book of Proverbs ends then with an acrostic poem about a godly wife. You're probably already at least somewhat familiar with this. Remember that in an acrostic poem, each successive verse begins with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So notice that such a wife. So as we're reading through this, there's a number of things that we'll notice about this wife. For example, such a wife fears Yahweh. We find that in verse 30. She does good and not evil. We find that in verse 12. She's able to teach divine wisdom. That comes from verse 26. Interestingly enough, those are all the same attributes that are spoken of a godly man elsewhere. Notice also the woman's ability to do everything that's necessary to take a craft from raw material to completion. And finally, how she brings home provisions almost in the same way that a warrior would bring home the spoils of war to enrich his family. In other words, the woman is praised just as a man would be praised. She's praised for her faith, she's praised for her skills, and she's praised for her accomplishments. The poem then ends with encouragement to husbands to praise their wives, including publicly, where the wife is deserving of the same position of honor as her husband is. Well, again, may God be with you and bless you. I pray that you're learning and growing. I look forward to gathering with you again tomorrow as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible.